Welcome everybody to KubeCon, the cloud native community in London, of course. We're just getting set up here in a second, and then Kathy mostly will take you through the CNCF landscape. I'm mostly the pretty face. So I hope you're all enjoying a great start here. It was certainly a great vibe coming on the tube, and people not all getting off in Canary Wharf, all the bankers, but actually all getting off a stop afterwards. So that was fantastic. What we're going to talk about here right now is actually first, hands up, who has heard of the cloud native landscape, the CNCF landscape? Okay, who has looked through every single icon on there? Really? Okay, fantastic. Your day job must be boring. What we're going to take you through here real quick is what is the landscape, why it's out there, and perhaps a couple of projects that we picked that you maybe should watch out for that has gotten some traction or is getting traction. And hopefully we're making this all a little bit entertaining. So, ready?
Okay.
Probably have to switch it out.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi. How's it going? I am Katherine Druckman. I am apparently challenged with my slides today. I appreciate you bearing with me. So I'm Katherine. I am an open source evangelist at Intel, but today I am the 13th Doctor, in case you're wondering why the get up. So yeah, we are going to take you on a journey. We're going to get into the TARDIS here and fly through the cloud native landscape. But a little about me, but not very much about me. I work for Intel. I'm involved in a lot of communities, including the OpenSSF, Open Source Security Foundation, the Open Platform for Enterprise AI Security, and a lot of other things. The point being, get involved, find a buddy, ask us questions. There we go. Lori would have been here, but I've got Gerald instead, and that's what we're going to win with. She ditched us, but no, she didn't really, but anyway. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the CNCF. We're going to talk about why the landscape is important, right? That's step one, and then how to use it. Because frankly, it's an overwhelming set of information. And this is the feedback that I hear, that a lot of us hear, that like, where do I even start with any of this? And then we're going to talk a little bit, hopefully if there's time, about a couple of awesome projects you may not know about. So what is this thing that we're doing here, right? There are so many people involved in this community, and what we're hoping to connect you with today is how to connect with those people, how to connect with the projects, and how to get involved and as a user and hopefully maybe someday as a contributor. So what is the Cloud Native Computing Foundation? What is it, Gerald? Why are you here?
Let's see, I think we have to switch microphones.
Oh, we have to switch.
Yeah, you can put this away. If anybody wants to turn up number 3, that would be great. Otherwise, we just put it away. So what is the Cloud Native Computing Foundation? Well, the CNCF's mission is to make cloud native computing ubiquitous, right? So basically spread cloud native computing to everywhere. Every project, every company, you should all really have the power of cloud native computing at your fingertips. We currently have 208 CNCF projects, which is really impressive. 257,000 and more project contributors, which is even more astonishing if you divide that by the projects. 756 CNCF members, and last but not least, 96,000 cloud native community members, such as yourself. Now, the Linux Foundation manages the CNCF, so it's basically the CNCF, the umbrella organization, is the Linux Foundation, as you probably know, right? And the Linux Foundation itself has more than 900 open source projects, 3 million developers, 777,000 developers contributing code, and so forth. And, 70 plus upcoming events, and one of the events that we're here is KubeCon. Over to you.
Yes, it is. No, it is not working.
Well, we just leave this.
Okay, we're just going to trade. That's all good. So how did the landscape get to be as big as it did? We'll have a little quick history lesson, right? So the Cloud Native Computing Foundation has been around for give or take 10 years. In 2014, it started with, well, really, I mean, we can give a lot of credit to Google, credit where credit is due. Google and Kubernetes, right? It started all of this. But in the early days, there were not these overwhelming number of projects. It was really, just a few. And it's grown, as you can see in 2018 in our timeline, it started out with only 31 projects. Well, 31 projects, I don't know, about the rest of you, but I've been around long enough to remember the days when I feel like we used to have a pretty good picture of not just things like the Cloud Native Computing Foundation projects, but just the full stack of technology, all the technology we work with on a day-to-day basis. But as the projects proliferate and as the community grows, it becomes very difficult to kind of get a handle and maintain a picture of the whole landscape, and that's where we're going with our story here, right? So now that we've gotten up to so many, let's talk a little bit about what a cloud native, a CNCF project status means, right? We go, when a project comes into the foundation under the umbrella, it's not a full-fledged in-production project necessarily, right? So I don't know, are you familiar with, have you been on that journey with a project before, Gerald?
I certainly have. Oh, this is working now. Perfect, thank you. Certainly I've seen a couple of projects that mature, right? It's like not every project is equal, right? Some of them are brand new, some of them are around for a long, long time, as we have heard, right? Like with Kubernetes. And so there's 3 phases to each project that they have to go through. So first there's an adoption process to even get into one of those phases, right? So a project must be selected and elected by a supermajority by the technical oversight committee to join the CNCF. So basically there's already some folks that look at something and say, yes, this belongs into the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. Then the next phase is? The
sandbox phase. Or sorry, the incubation phase.
Right.
Sorry, I skipped. The incubation phase. Once you have a few more users, you've grown your community, maybe you're in production, but you haven't fully graduated. There's that kind of in-between stage. Does that mean that you shouldn't use that project in production? No, I don't think so. Does it maybe mean you need to do a tiny bit more due diligence than just adopting something as widely used as, say, Kubernetes, Helm? The big ones? Well, maybe. Maybe you should consider it in a slightly different way. Maybe you should contribute to it. Maybe it needs a little bit more help to get it all the way to graduation.
Right, and so you can really think of this as a process, right? So somebody elects the project in, then you're in a sandbox, right? You see where it's going, maybe it's going nowhere, that's fine. Then when it is going somewhere, you're in the incubation phase, right, where it incubates. And then last but not least, hopefully, it will graduate into a full-on CNCF project, right? And at that stage, you basically have to show the thriving adoption rate, right? Something that the CNCF community is really looking forward of having. Why do we have a blank screen now?
I don't know.
And, so it helps you when you just look at the CNCF landscape to also gauge a bit where a project or a particular project is that you're looking at, right? So it's like, is it sandbox phase? Well, maybe that's not quite production ready, right? Or at least for your use case or something, right? But to watch out for, maybe to even start contributing, right? But with graduated projects, you can definitely put your hand in fire that is what the community, what the CNCF Foundation has said, look, this is a project that fulfills all the criteria and is good to go.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, right? So this is, we keep using this word, right? Overwhelming. And that's because everybody does like to use this word, overwhelming. But how do we get here, right? And if you look at the graph, this is the number. Of course, the sandbox is always going to be the biggest number because that's the incoming fledgling projects. But it's grown tremendously over time to the point where we've needed to put a little bit of order into it.
You could almost spike a trend in there.
Yes, you can. So here we go. This is the point of why we're here. Introducing the CNCF landscape. This is something, I'm just going to go ahead and switch over here and show you.
Yeah, we're going to do this live.
This is what it actually looks like. There we go. But it's a huge, well-organized, thank you, George Castro, wherever you are, very well-organized layout of all of the projects. And before I start, I drill down into a couple of them just to show you how to use it. I do want to go back and show you where it started. This is what it used to look like, right? That's not so difficult to manage. But here we go. Now we're in this world where we have a shocking number of projects, right? And we don't know where to start. So let's grab any project, right? Let's look at Kavir now. Now, for any of these projects, you can click on the project name. You can follow its status, right? So this one you can see is in an incubating stage as of 2022. Good job, right? You can also see the stats on the number of contributors, the number of stars. That can be an indication of project maturity, right? We can see latest release. If you haven't seen a release in a few years, maybe that's a red flag. Something that maybe you don't want to put into production. And there's a lot of other information that you can get from this, including, oh, look at that, a CLO monitor score. What is CLO monitor? Well, we love to collect stats about our projects. I kind of regret slightly taking the Kyverno actually as an example, because 99 is an almost unattainable score. Don't assume that they're all going to look like this, right? You're going to see some 80-something, you're going to see some 70-something. But it's a series of checks that runs on an automated basis on all of these projects, and this is a really fantastic place to start when you're starting to evaluate projects, both for use in your own projects and also the projects that you're thinking of contributing to, right? This is a really great place to get an idea of where the gaps are, where these projects could use your help, and then where to start, right? And it also includes, and I want to make sure I point this out, it includes some security information about the projects, and this is really fantastically useful. This is, I believe, pulled from OpenSSF scorecard. I believe that it's automated into the process, which is yet another project to check out. But, oh, wait, there's one thing in red. It's not perfect. I was starting to get a little intimidated by their perfection. But there is one thing, and that's a great thing where, hey, maybe you as an end user or a contributor can jump in and say, hey, I'd like to help out with that project. Maybe I want to help them fix that and get a perfect score.
You know what I think of, like I wish I had that in like 10 years ago when you pick something, right? And you go like, what should we deploy? Oh, this looks cool. Let's Google it. You know, we found it. Oh, okay. This looks interesting. But here, yeah, you see, as you can see here, it's really sophisticated, right? So you can really drill down not only in each project where they are at, but also when we switch over to the landscape real quick, you also see that they are organized not only by the categories like automation, observability, etc., but you can also search if you wanted to, right? All different dimensions, right? Either just by typing in the project name, or by drilling down into a given category, or by looking at some of the other stats.
You can sort by status, of course, too. That's in here somewhere.
The filter on the very left.
Thank you. Filters. There we go. We can look at, and we can see, okay, maybe we only want to look at graduated projects. Maybe. For some reason. Oh, look at that. There are a surprising number of those as well. I'm sure you've heard of many, if not all of these. Yeah, shout out to Argo out there. I am an Argo fan. That's a whole other story. But there's another thing that I think is really useful here that Lori and I, when we have given this talk, we like to make sure to share with people, and that is, do you see this little great icon up here on the right? You can download all of this. I find this incredibly useful. I happen to already have it open. Let's see if it'll, oh, you can't see it. I don't know how to share my screen. This is a whole thing.
Well, trust us, there was a CSV
Trust
file
me,
that got
you can
downloaded.
download the whole thing. And among the information that you can get from that is things like security issues, latest security audit information, really, really good stuff. So what is your favorite undiscovered project?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's so many good ones out there. I don't know, I really can't pick. Tell me one, Katie.
Okay. I'm going to pick, you know what, I'm going to go back to, oh, wait, sorry, say that again?
Say it again? Kairos?
How do you spell it?
There it is. Kairos.
There we go. Awesome. It's a sandbox project. So this is actually, thank you for that, by the way, because this is a really great way to take a look at something that maybe doesn't have that near perfect CLO monitor score. Oh, but it does. Okay, I'm feeling very inadequate right now. We are almost out of time, so we won't get to get into some of the those undiscovered projects, but I do want to say, thank everybody for being here, because you're going to learn all throughout the day about these fantastic undiscovered projects. And if there's one takeaway that I hope everybody gets from this and from me, is to make friends this week. Find the projects that need your help. Jump in. This is a really great opportunity for you to connect with maintainers, see what needs to be done, and help keep all of this going. We all depend on all of these projects, and we depend not just on the graduated projects, we would depend on a thriving ecosystem, because we, as end users, as users of technology in our daily lives, we depend on these projects being successful and healthy. So get involved.
Thank you very much. Enjoy KubeCon.